What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Matt and welcome to Downshift. Today I have something exceedingly special for you guys. It is my own personal BMW E30. Let me clear one thing up right away. This is not the E30 you want. I drive the 318. The one that you want is the 325i. That one's got a lot more power. It's a little bit more exciting to drive. I started my search for my E30 a couple years ago. It took me just over a year to find one that I liked. So I started my search looking for a white coupe 325. And what do I drive today? A red convertible 318. That's just how life goes, I guess. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. This thing is so much fun. From the factory back in 1992, this thing probably made about 132 horsepower from this four-cylinder. It's mated to a nice 5-speed manual transmission, 3-pedal format, of course. The clutch is delightful. It's got a nice weight to it, a nice bite point. The throws are a little bit spongy in the shifter, but it's something you can live with. Now, my more astute viewers will probably notice that I said this thing made back in 1992 132 horsepower. Now, this car is 26 years old, and as a result, I'm assuming that we've lost a good amount of horsepower. So, what I would say is this thing probably makes about maybe 100 at the crank, pushing about 80 to the wheels. Doesn't even matter. This car is not about speed. If you want a little bit more power, jump up to the 325. That's gonna give you about 170 back in, 90 whatever when it came out. I should say the engine switched back in 87. So this car came out pre-87. In 1987, they had a refresh to the engine. They kind of retuned it a little bit. It used to only rev to 4,000 and now it revs all the way up to 6,200. So let's recap here. This thing's 26 years old, pushing under 100 horsepower to the wheels. It's got an ancient suspension. It's got only a 5-speed transmission. It's fine. And it's basically like driving a box in terms of aerodynamics. So what makes this thing so special? I couldn't really tell you. There's nothing on paper that makes this thing kind of transcend anything or make it special. It's a really, really boring car on paper. But when you drive it, you start to understand what makes this thing special. Give it a pull, listen to that raspy 4-cylinder. This is very typical BMW. This thing is just fun. I mean, it just hangs on. Motor Trend has revered this as one of the best driver's car ever. This thing was produced from 84 to about 93. Like I said, in 87, they revised the engine. They made it rev from 4,800 to about 6,200. Made it a much more involving driving experience, but it's just so much fun. It corners so well. That's the biggest thing. Is this not the fastest? It's not the loudest. It's not the most dynamically, aerodynamically proficient, but it's one of the most fun and rewarding cars to drive. This is one of my first manual cars that I've owned personally. I've driven a lot, but this is one of the first ones that I've owned. And yeah, as a car guy, you want something fast and something exciting. But there's so much more than that. There's so much more that you can do behind the wheel of a car. And this really allows you to maximize everything. People tout the Miata's driving performance and capability because you can drive at 10 tenths. You can rev all the way up to redline without going dangerously fast and like you're gonna kill yourself. This thing is just so much fun. Dynamically, it just turns and handles. Everything is perfect. Here we go. And you will get fun stuff to happen to you. You can get liftoff oversteer when you're pushing it hard through a corner. You will get some tire squeal. You can drift this thing, preferably when it's wet because it doesn't have that much power, let's remember. But it's rear wheel drive. It's exactly what it's supposed to be. It revs out. It's fun. Look at this thing. If you're looking at one of these on paper, you're not gonna get it. The only thing that you can do is get into one of these, put your left foot on the clutch, your right foot on the gas, and let it go. Listen to it rev, 6,200. And And also, don't just take my word for it. I mean, the M3 version of this car, this E30, is one of the most winning homologation race cars of all time. This thing has won the 24 hours of the Nürburgring several times. It's won so many races, I can't even tell you. But it's just an incredible, incredible vehicle. So yeah, if you're looking on paper, it's not gonna be special, but you really, really get it. And I really, really hope that you have a chance to drive one of these things sometime, because they're so much fun. Now remember how I was saying that this thing has no power, there's not a lot of noise, it doesn't, you know, it's not really aerodynamically sound. The reason that this thing is so good and can handle so well is it's 2,800 pounds. It's so light, it's so tossable, and that's what I personally look for in my cars. It's something, you know, I've just got done driving a Maserati Quattroporte, I've driven an S63 AMG, I've driven, you know, even the new M5, it's just big and it's got 600 horsepower, but you feel all the weight. You feel everything when you're driving the car. You know, the power comes on really slow and kind of like, I don't know, but you don't get that sense of that nimble agility. You don't feel as confident chucking it into a corner. You know, with this thing, I can go into a corner, I can go into the same corner as the M5 at 20 miles per hour slower and have way more fun. There we go, let's push it. This thing doesn't know how to understeer. It's so much fun. God, it's barely 100 horsepower at the crank, 80 maybe to the wheels. I can still get the back end loose, get a nice tire squeal. It's so much fun! Now also one of the reasons that I wanted to get an E30 was because they're just so universally loved and accepted, and you know, they're so easy to work on. One of the things that I wanted to do when I started this whole Downshift project was get more involved in car culture. I wanted to learn how to, you know, crank on my car and wrench on it and learn how to fix things, you know, but it's something so much more than that. Everyone can appreciate this car. You know, I drive down the street and I couldn't tell you how many times people have just like, yeah man, like thumbs up, or, you know, like kind of stopped and stared and smiled. It's more or less a public service to own one of these things. Maybe it's just a red convertible and it brings people back to a time when it was, you know, things were a lot less chaotic. You know, maybe it reminds them of their youth or whatever it may be. But the response that you get from people on the side of the road and people driving next to you and giving you thumbs up or whatever, it's so positive. It's like overwhelming, honestly. It's a public service. This car is a public service. Now, like I was saying, I got into one of these things because I wanted to learn how to work on cars. And that's been really frustrating because this thing does not break. I've had this thing for over a year and nothing really has gone bad. I've done an oil change, I've changed diff fluid, new spark plugs, but there's nothing that's actually like happened that I didn't need to replace suspension. Like there's been no actual serious issues. It's more just maintenance and upkeep. And that's fine. Like I have a great experience doing that and I work with one of my friends. Shout out Brian for helping me out. I really appreciate everything you do, buddy. But yeah, it's fun because you get to learn at a slow rate, but it's so reliable. This is my second car, and my first car is 2008. It's a lot newer, and I had a lot more problems with it. So this car is bulletproof, and it's reliable. It gets good fuel economy. I drove all the way up to our lake cottage kind of thing this summer in this thing, which is like a 2.5-hour trip. No problems whatsoever. I got great fuel economy. I got like 28, maybe 30 miles to the gallon on the way up. So I'm getting fantastic fuel economy in something that's 26 years old. And then when I got there, did I let it rest? No, I took it out to like a B road and I kind of thrashed it around a bit and it loved it. It was so much fun. This car is just, it's the epitome of like the most amount of fun, the most smiles per gallon that you can get. Also, one of the things I forgot to mention when we were talking about dynamics and speed and power and handling and all that stuff is Motor Trend did a fantastic ignition episode in which they focused on the E30, specifically the 325. And I say it's so good because at the end of the episode, they do a hot lap between the 325. Jason Camisa has a 325 wagon, and they took that and they put it up against a brand new 340 top of the line 3 Series. That's not the M3, one step below the M3. They took the top of the line 3 Series and they put it up against this 325 wagon, and the wagon only lost by like a second or two. Like it was so close for something with half the power, you know, and that's 30 almost years old. It was insane. That's what makes this car special. It's not brutish, it's not super powerful. You're not gonna impress anyone in straight line speed, but it's so well done. The chassis is so refined, it's so balanced, it's so light and tossable, it corners so well. That's what makes this car special. Now I'm talking about how good this car is dynamically, and it's true, but that's not the only thing it can do. I mean, this is still a BMW, it's still a luxury car. Granted, it's 26 years old, but you still get modern amenities. You get power adjustable mirrors. I have an MPG gauge. You know, I have 2-level heated seats for both myself and the passenger. Like, it's fantastic. No, but the only thing that I really wish that I could get in this car that I don't have is a cup holder. So if you ask me, Matt, is this the perfect car? No, it's not. I mean, it's still got some issues. Like I said, it doesn't have a cup holder. The suspension is ancient. The aerodynamics are basically the same as driving a cardboard box down the road. So no, it's not perfect. And I would like more power, and I would like revised suspension and, you know, some new stuff in it. But for the age of this car, you can get into one of these things for a couple grand, you know, and they're so easy to work on. You can wrench on it yourself. It's, like I said, it's the most miles per gallon that you can get. And that's what makes this car special. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. So as always, thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next time.